It is a story of immense power, cultural clash, and a brutal end for one of the most prestigious dynasties in the Islamic world. What happened to the caliph and his family is a tale that has echoed through the centuries, and it's far more complex and horrifying than you might imagine. For over 500 years, Baghdad was the heart of the Abbasid Caliphate, a beacon of science, culture, and learning. Its house of wisdom was legendary, attracting scholars from all over the known world. The city itself was a masterpiece, nicknamed the City of Peace, with magnificent palaces, sprawling libraries, and bustling markets. It was the center of a golden age. The caliph, Al-Musta'sim Billah, was the 37th in a long line of rulers who, while their political power had waned, still held immense spiritual authority over the Sunni Muslim world. He was a symbol, a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad's uncle. To many, the Abbasid Caliphate seemed eternal, a permanent fixture of their world. But in the mid-13th century, a storm was gathering in the east. The Mongol Empire, under the leadership of Genghis Khan's grandson, Hulagu Khan, was on the move. Hulagu had a clear mission to conquer the lands of the Middle East, all the way to the shores of the Mediterranean. His army was one of the most disciplined and fearsome military forces in history. They were masters of siege warfare, psychological tactics, and relentless in their pursuit of victory. Before they even reached Baghdad, their reputation preceded them. Cities that resisted were utterly destroyed, their populations decimated. Cities that surrendered might be spared, but their fate was still in Mongol hands. In 1257, Hulagu Khan sent an ultimatum to Caliph Al-Musta'sim. The message was blunt: submit to Mongol rule, tear down your city walls, and come to me in person to pay homage or face utter destruction. The caliph was caught in a difficult position. His advisors were divided. Some urged him to submit, knowing the terrifying power of the Mongol army. They pointed to the fate of other cities that had defied them. Others, however, were more prideful. They argued that Baghdad was inviolable, protected by God and the loyalty of the entire Muslim world. They believed that if Baghdad were attacked, armies from across the Islamic lands would rush to its defense. Al-Musta'sim, unfortunately, chose a disastrous middle path. He responded with a defiant, arrogant letter, reminding Hulagu of his spiritual importance and warning him that an attack on the caliph would bring divine wrath. Yet, he failed to properly prepare for the war he had just provoked. He didn't strengthen his defenses adequately, nor did he mobilize the full strength of his army, which was a shadow of its former glory. He vastly underestimated the Mongols' resolve and overestimated his own influence. It was a fatal miscalculation. The Muslim world did not rally to his side as he had hoped. The kingdoms around him were either scared of the Mongols or had their own rivalries with the Abbasids. Baghdad was on its own. Furious at the caliph's defiance, Hulagu marched on Baghdad. His massive army, a coalition of Mongol, Turkic, Armenian, and Georgian forces, surrounded the city in January 1258. They constructed a palisade and a ditch around the entire city, trapping everyone inside. The Mongol siege engines, powerful trebuchets that could hurl massive stones, began their bombardment of the city walls day and night. The people of Baghdad, who had lived in relative peace for generations, were now facing a terrifying and relentless assault. The sound of the bombardment was constant, a drumbeat of their impending doom. The city's defenses, neglected for years, began to crumble. On February 10th, the Mongols breached the walls. What followed was one of the most horrific sacks in human history. For an entire week, the Mongol army was let loose upon the city. The accounts from historians of the time are truly chilling. They describe rivers of blood flowing in the streets. The Tigris River was said to have run red with the blood of the slaughtered, and then black with the ink from countless books thrown from the city's libraries. The House of Wisdom, the greatest library in the world, was utterly destroyed. Centuries of knowledge in medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy were lost forever, burned or dumped into the river. Palaces, mosques, hospitals, and homes were looted and set ablaze. The scale of the destruction was almost unimaginable. Estimates of the death toll range from hundreds of thousands to over 1 million people. The City of Peace had become a city of death. Amid this carnage, what happened to the caliph and his family? After the walls were breached, Caliph Al-Musta'sim realized his situation was hopeless. He, along with his sons and about 3,000 of the city's nobles and officials, surrendered. They hoped for mercy. Hulagu Khan, however, had a different plan. He first forced the caliph to order the city's remaining inhabitants to disarm and come out, where many were systematically killed. Then came the moment of the caliph's personal humiliation. Hulagu, according to the accounts, toyed with him. He had the caliph point out where his hidden treasures were, which the Mongols promptly looted. The caliph, who once lived in unimaginable luxury, was now a prisoner, forced to watch the complete destruction of everything he held dear. Now, we come to the most shocking part, the execution of the royal family. According to Mongol tradition, it was considered a taboo to spill the royal blood of a ruler upon the earth. Doing so was thought to bring bad luck or cosmic retribution. This might sound like a sign of respect, but in reality, it just led to more creative and brutal methods of execution. Hulagu needed to eliminate the caliph, the symbol of Abbasid power, but he wanted to do it without violating his own customs. So, how did they solve this problem? The historical accounts, particularly from the Persian historian Rashid al-Din, give us a grim picture. On February 20th, 1258, Caliph al-Musta'sim was taken to his execution, but he wasn't beheaded or stabbed. Instead, he was wrapped in a carpet. This way, his royal blood was never spilled directly onto the ground. His physical body was crushed, but the taboo was, in their view, technically observed. It was a gruesome, humiliating end for the spiritual leader of millions. The fate of his family was just as tragic. His sons were also executed. Some accounts say his eldest sons met the same fate as their father, while others were killed by more conventional means. Only one young son was reportedly spared and sent back to Mongolia. As for the women of the caliph's harem, their fate is less clearly documented but equally horrifying. Hulagu took one of the caliph's daughters for his own harem. Many other women were distributed among the Mongol commanders or sold into slavery. The entire dynasty, which had ruled for half a millennium, was wiped out in a matter of days. There would be no Abbasid caliph in Baghdad ever again. The fall of Baghdad and the execution of the caliph sent a shockwave across the entire Muslim world. It was a psychological blow from which it took centuries to recover. The destruction of the city and its libraries marked the definitive end of the Islamic Golden Age. The center of intellectual and cultural life shifted elsewhere, to Cairo and other cities. But the loss was profound. For the Mongols, it was a major victory. Hulagu Khan had accomplished his mission. He had broken the power of the Abbasids and brought the heart of the Middle East under Mongol dominion. The event solidified the Mongol reputation for unstoppable brutality, a tool they used effectively to encourage other cities to surrender without a fight. So, the next time you hear about the Mongol conquests, remember the story of Baghdad. Remember the caliph, wrapped in a carpet, meeting his end under the hooves of Mongol horses. It's a powerful and brutal reminder that in the great clashes of history, tradition and symbolism can offer no protection against overwhelming force. The fall of Baghdad wasn't just the end of a city, it was the end of an era, and its echoes can still be felt in the world today. Thank you so much for watching. What part of this story shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. We'll see you in the next one.